welcome to the Week 8 Aftermath podcast of the PTW podcast. We finished Week 8, folks. We are basically at the halfway point of the NFL season. Granted, there's 17 games now instead of 16, so some could argue that the halfway point is next week as opposed to this week. But for all intents and purposes, for argument's sake, this week we are celebrating the halfway point of the NFL season. Welcome to another episode of the PTW podcast. My name is Amir, and with me, as always, is Tassi, the football Greek, fresh off of a 49ers Sunday night victory against the Dallas Cowboys, bringing them to 4-4, and fresh off of a last-second field goal walk-off loss to the Arizona Cardinals. As a Miami Dolphins fan, it is what it is. The season is now 2-5, following expectations of what I thought the season would be all along. The Buffalo Bills are riding high at 6-2, as I said they would be. Yeah. And here we are entering week 9 as the Dolphins get prepared to get steamrolled by the Buffalo Bills at home in Buffalo. But that is for another episode. This episode, we're going to be previewing, basically not previewing, but reviewing everything that happened in week 8. Go through some of the top stories, the ones that we find of interest and the ones that we think that you'd be interested in hearing. And as always, if you're interested in following along with us here at the PCW podcast, then we encourage you, we implore you, we ask you that you like and subscribe to the PCW podcast here on our YouTube channel and wherever you're listening to your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcasting app of choice. We appreciate your support. So let's get started. Tassi.
Yes.
Week 8 had its fair share of stories, its fair share of surprises, but I think nothing more surprising than the game of the first overall pick quarterback versus the second overall pick, also quarterback. The Chicago Bears played the Washington Commanders in Washington, and the Bears look like they're going to take it home. Washington has one final play up their sleeve, one final try, one final try, if you will, a Hail Mary, if you will, and a play that very rarely works. Somehow, some way, bounced off of the right fingertips, the right hand, and got into a receiver standing by his lonesome in the end zone, waiting to catch said ball. Washington wins and sends Chicago to 4-3 as opposed to 5-2 with a Hail Mary pass from Jaden Daniels, which gives them the victory. Final score of 18-15. First and foremost, what a story, right? The Washington Commanders are now 6-2, and this play could have very easily, if it went the wrong way, send them to 5-3. And Chicago to 5-2, and we'd be sitting here singing the praises of the Chicago Bears. Would be 5-2 after picking first overall. Now, granted, they picked first overall because they had Carolina's pick. But still, what a story of these two franchises going in the direction that they're going. Both with winning records, both playing a pretty tough game, low-scoring game, but still. Commanders come away with the Hail Mary pass. What are your thoughts on this crazy game?
So a couple of things. I mean, Jay Daniels played way better than Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams' stats were abysmal.
10 completions,
He basically they basically tried to give away the game like very Bears-like. They're first and goal. They try to hand it off to a lineman, and it bounces off his chest. They fumble. Washington recovers. Then they get the ball back. They score a touchdown. They take the lead with like very little time left. And Washington then runs a couple of plays where they're doing the prevent defense, which prevents anything but winning. And essentially they let them get into position to do a last second Hail Mary. Like they basically gave the sideline up with like 7 seconds left for Terry McLaurin to get a reception to get to like the 50-yard line or the 48-yard line essentially. And then Jay Daniels runs around. There's a cornerback of the Bears. I don't remember his name, but he was like talking crap to the crowd. And then he's the one that runs back, tips it, and it goes to Noah Brown.
Incredible, right?
And it's like, dude, it's such karma, right? It's like, you idiot, just play defense for one last play. No, you're gonna talk shit to the crowd, and then you're gonna screw up the whole thing. It's unbelievable because he ran across and he like jumped up and it hit the top of his hand, and so that's what it was. We were watching it on our phones because we were like, the game was pretty much started. That was the last game, so like Red Zone couldn't play it anymore. So we were all kind of watching the highlight of that happening on our phones. We're like, what? They actually won? Because it was like 2 seconds left, like whatever it was, and it was just like, it was crazy. Bedlam at the stadium in Washington, and what a game. Jay Daniels cementing his place as the rookie of the year this year with this game, calling it right now. So it'll be him for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and stats wise, to your point of Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, 24 attempts, only 10 completions for 131 yards. He did run the ball 10 times for 41 yards. Yeah. So you got to factor that in there. Jaden Daniels, 21 completions off of 38 attempts for 326 yards, a touchdown and no interceptions. That touchdown being the Hail Mary touchdown. Yeah. He also did run it 8 times for 52 yards for an average of 6.5 yards.
A little bit more efficient.
So
on the ground.
2 years in a row of the second overall pick, outperforming the first overall pick. Last year with CJ Stroud, obviously, being better than Bryce Young. Still, that's the case. And this year, it looks like Jaden Daniels is Caleb Williams is coming into his own. I mean, the fact that Chicago is a winning team, had a very real shot of being 5-2 versus 4-3. That in itself is impressive in a division where the Detroit Lions are absolutely the kings of the division, hell, the kings of the conference, maybe even the kings of the NFL, and they're staying in the mix. In it. They're staying in the mix when the trajectory of the Vikings is going down, and the Packers situation is looking fluid based on Jordan Love's health and play, and Malik Willis coming in and all that kind of stuff. But the Bears have a very real shot of making some noise in that division, which is saying a lot because, in my opinion, that is the best division in football right now. I don't think any division comes close to the NFC North.
I agree with you on that, based on just where everybody's at and how competitive it's been. I still think Chicago, like, because of their troubles on offense, and Caleb's like the week before or 2 weeks before, he had a really good game. Like against Jacksonville in London, he like just lit them up, and then then he was kind of okay the last couple of weeks, but still he's coming into his own.
Yep,
he's getting better. This was a little bit of a step back, I think, based on how he performed, but still he had him in position to win the game, and it wasn't for a fluke play and some bad Bears defense that they ended up losing. So that's not really on him, essentially. So. But still, the magic goes to Jay Daniels, and then that essentially catapults him to the top of that rank there of the the rookie of the year. So, I know that you kind of mentioned Detroit. Detroit is the best team in football right now. I mean, I know that we're going to talk about a little bit, but that division from Minnesota, Green Bay, Chicago. All a tough division, and of course the NFC West plays that division this year. So it's just like we're getting squashed by them. Niners have to go to Green Bay, and then they got Detroit coming in, and they got Chicago coming in. So we'll see how they fare. They still got 3 more matchups with that division, but definitely at this point the best division in football.
We're going from a current first overall pick to a former first overall pick. Tassi, the Cleveland Browns are a much better team with Jameis Winston. I think that much was proven in the last week's game, even if they had lost. But the fact that they defeated Baltimore at home, granted, home game, division game, yes. But I don't think anyone outside of you had it on their bingo card that the Baltimore Ravens would walk into Cleveland Browns Stadium and lose 24-29 to the now Jameis Winston-led Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, 23 of 38, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Versus Jameis Winston, 27 of 41, 334 yards of passing, 3 touchdowns and no picks. To say that, this team was a quarterback away from being a decent to competent team is an understatement.
Definitely.
And Sunday's game absolutely showed it.
Yeah, a couple of things about the game. Jameis Winston came in. I talked about it right on the podcast in the preview. Like, they're going to be so much better on offense, and they're going to be able to throw the ball. And I said that Jameis Winston might make a mistake for them to lose the game, but he didn't make the mistake this game, and they won it. So it was one of those games where he was just doing the Jameis Winston kind of like famous Jameis, like getting out there and chucking the ball around 40 plus times and, making the most of it. And then Cedric Tillman, man, we talked about it as a pickup, like he was going to be a hot pickup. He ended up like being the number one fantasy receiver this week. Huge monster game. 2 touchdowns,
99 yards, 7
99 yards. Yeah. And then also on the team, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit later, but Elijah Moore, big game too, 12 targets, 8 receptions for almost 90 yards. And then Nick Chubb coming back, he's still kind of on a pitch count. He's not playing every snap. He was like in, I think, like 60% of the snaps this game.
Yeah.
So they're working him. They're getting him back to full strength. So Cleveland actually at this point with Jameis Winston, now it's going to be more of it. They're actually going to be a good team, because with their defense, Myles Garrett and those Denzel Ward and those guys, I think they're going to start competing now and maybe stack some wins together and kind of get back in this. So we'll see what happens as the season rolls on, right? Like, this is definitely a catapult game for a team like this, right?
Oh, absolutely. You beat arguably the best team in the AFC.
Yes.
And you do it at home. Division game.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, you have the Chargers coming to your stadium next week. The Chargers don't scare me. Granted, they won this week, but they still don't scare me.
Yeah. No.
And you have a real shot of going 3-6 when you could have theoretically, if Deshaun Watson doesn't get hurt, you keep him as your starting quarterback.
Yeah.
You very possibly go lose this game against the Ravens, and you lose the game against the Chargers, and you go 1-8 versus being 1-8 versus being 3-6, right?
Yeah.
So or 4-6. Well, 2-6 now. They beat if they beat the Chargers 3-6. So it makes a world of difference.
It does.
A huge world of difference.
Yeah. No, I honestly think that Cleveland's gonna, because they kind of did this last year under Joe Flacco, right? Like Deshaun Watson gets hurt, and all of a sudden Joe Flacco's throwing for like 300 plus yards. Amari Cooper's like balling out. Like, he had that 200 plus yard game. It was just amazing last year, and it's just crazy like how bad a trade that was for Cleveland. It was the worst, probably one of the worst trades in NFL history.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
It would.
And then
the
contract they gave.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be. But the Browns take down again AFC juggernaut Baltimore Ravens, which makes you now kind of question Baltimore's validity as one of the top upper echelon teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been killing it, beating some really good teams. So it's not like they've been beating scrubs, but they play this division game, a game they, for all intents and purposes, should have won.
Definitely.
And they lose 24-29 in a key division game. Now, talking about Jameis Winston, who's getting revitalized right now for the Cleveland Browns, to another team in the AFC North with another quarterback who's having a revitalization in his career, and a quarterback that I went on this podcast and said, this is the year that this quarterback reclaims his place as a respectable, if not upper echelon quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if we're getting the upper echelon
Russell
play,
Wilson.
but we're getting the revival
Yeah.
of dangerous Russell Wilson. Monday Night Football, the Steelers defeat the New York Giants, and Russell Wilson, or the Steelers under Russell Wilson, improved to 2-0 on the season with Russell at the helm. Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson, 20 of 28, 278 yards, and a touchdown. He also ran the ball 3 times for 7 yards. And, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers keep trucking along, man. A 6-2 franchise.
Yeah.
Now the best team in the division, thanks to Baltimore's loss.
Yes.
And who would have predicted early in the season that with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the halfway point of the season would be up 1 game over the Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore Ravens, the Deshaun Watson Cleveland Browns that everyone thought was going to be great, and the Joe Burrow Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
What a story, man. And it goes back to what I've been saying over and over and over again. Good franchises find a way to remain good and get better. This is what they do.
Very, very true. And Mike Tomlin is one hell of a football coach.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Now with the Steelers, I mean, their defense is the best defense in football, and TJ Watt is the best defensive player in football. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you look at what they did today. They basically, Russell Wilson had a decent game, but they basically won the game for the Steelers today. You know, they like their offense. Like Russell Wilson fumbled. They also had a punt return for a touchdown. Like their defense had 2 key turnovers at the end of the game where New York could have tied up the game. So, TJ Watt had one where the strip sack fumble, recovery. And the other was the interception at the end of the game with like 50 seconds left when New York was driving to tie the game up. Yeah. So, if you look at it, like their defense, special teams, like complete game from them. And then, George Pickens making some really nice catches again. He had 2 touchdowns called back. So people who had him in fantasy were probably really pissed off, and even people that had Russell Wilson. And then Calvin Austin, like he's looking like a little player. He had a touchdown, and he had 2 touchdowns actually, and the punt return. So some things to kind of look at the Steelers, kind of like as moving forward. They're looking pretty competitive, with their defense. Like all they needed was a little bit of offense, and it seems like they're getting that more so with Russ than Justin Fields. So, it's looking good for them moving forward. They're on bye this week, so
it reminds me of I forgot what year it was. Maybe it was the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, where they make a Super Bowl run. They win the Super Bowl very much off of their defense. Right?
They had Trent Dilfer as their quarterback.
Trent Dilfer as their quarterback. Trent Dilfer is a Super Bowl winning quarterback because of the defense of the Baltimore Ravens.
They just don't screw this up, bro.
and that very well could be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields' MO with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just don't mess it up. Just
he tried
manager, get us some first downs, maybe like score a touchdown, maybe score like 1 touchdown a game. That's all we need from you. We'll take care of the rest. And what a position to be in when it's not all on your shoulders. Like you don't have to be like, superhero, Superman all day, every day for every game.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It's very true. I mean, Russ Wilson, he just has to manage the game a bit, essentially. Don't make any bonehead mistakes and, lead a couple of good offensive drives and get a couple of touchdowns, and you're pretty much going to win every game with the way that defense plays. So,
I love it.
Steelers are looking good going into their bye.
The NFC North, in our opinion, both myself and Tassi, is the best division in football.
Yeah.
I'd argue the most fun division in football, though.
Yeah.
As a division that your team gets to play in. And the reason for that being is that after this week, 3 teams are 4-4.
Yeah.
And 1 team is 1 game behind.
Not
with
even.
The very real possibility of this week, if the Rams win, and I think the Cardinals lose
Yeah.
because I forgot. The
Yeah.
Cardinals are playing the Bears.
Yeah. So if the Cardinals lose and the Rams win, the Rams will be they'll leapfrog everybody and they'll be in number 1 in the division.
And a few weeks ago, there was arguments about this team being a trash heap of a team.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there are two situations away from being at the top of the division.
Yeah.
But let's get some stuff out of the way. Cardinals, game-winning 2-minute drive to seal the game against the Miami Dolphins and kick a pretty chip shot field goal to win the game. 28-27. Props to them. I watched the game in full. Their offense looked good against Miami's defense, and Miami's defense is a decent. They're not the best. They're not great this year, but they're not terrible. So great job by Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., et cetera, to get the win there.
James Conner.
Seattle gets pummeled by Buffalo,
destroyed,
and at home,
like we thought they would.
Yeah, we thought they would. And what's interesting is that Geno Smith had a very interesting quote from the press conference, very interesting clip from a press conference saying that the Buffalo fans traveled so well that at times it felt like they were playing an away game in Seattle.
That's
wild. Buffalo fans were being louder. Bills Mafia was being louder than the 12th man in Seattle, which is nuts. Okay,
yeah.
And especially when you factor in the distance between Buffalo, New York, and Seattle, Washington, right? So props to Bills Mafia. They're very excited. I mean, you can right now. I mean, it's just when they're showing playoff trajectories, like who's in, who's out, who's on the verge. Just put the check mark next to the Buffalo Bills already, because the other 3 teams are 4 games behind them right now. Okay, so no one's catching up to them. The Bills are running away with the AFC East route. Yeah. AFC East crown is wrapped. And then the Niners get the must win on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas made it a game late in the 4th, but Niners hold on. They get to 4-4, and Rams are right there on everyone's tail. This to me is the most fun division in football.
It is going to be very interesting. It's not what I expected going into this season, that everybody was going to be all bunched up, especially like at the quarter mark or halfway mark of the season. And, part of it's the Niners' own doing, because 100%. If they didn't blow the games against Arizona and the Rams, you're talking about 2 more wins for the Niners and 1 less win for both of those teams. And Niners, essentially, that's a 2-game swing. So they would be 2 games up in the division on everybody right now. Instead, because they blew both those games, now they're tied up. It's a big cluster, I won't say the rest. But, going back to the game against the Cowboys, I mean, it was the Niners in the 4th quarter. They tried to blow it again. They gave the ball back to Dak with 3 minutes left, and it took the defense finally stepping up. They're going to leave CeeDee Lamb open all 4th quarter for him to have 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, they weren't covering him. Like, what's that? That's what a game plan is that, first of all. Like, Nick Sorensen, they got to get this defense in playing a full 60-minute game. Yeah. And to let Dallas basically get the ball back with the chance to win the game with the touchdown.
Yep.
With 3 minutes left. Yep. It was nuts. Like, we were all like, oh shit, we're going to lose this game. And it felt like that, because it felt like I was there for the Cardinals game. I watched the Rams game. I know how it feels. it felt like that. And, luckily the defense stepped up, and they're really lucky, because on that 4th down play, the safety came around, Jair Brown. He made contact with the receiver first. They could have easily called him for pass interference on that play, and then kept the drive going for Dallas. And who knows, they may have scored a touchdown.
One of the touchdown drives.
Yes.
They were short of the end zone. Like Brock, the quarterback sneak, Brock didn't make it.
Yeah,
they showed the replay on the field, and I'm like, wait, what a sec, wait.
Yeah.
Why is
his elbow was down?
His elbow was down on the half-yard line.
Yeah,
and it's shocking to me, because every touchdown play is reviewed, and they still were like, yeah, it's a touchdown.
Yeah,
That
we were
part
all
was
looking at each other like, "Oh man, that's that's awesome for
and
us."
I'm like, wait, so someone's got to challenge this, and then there's the extra point kicked. I'm like, are
Yeah,
you kidding me? Mike McCarthy didn't challenge this?
yeah. Well, you can't challenge scoring because it happened tonight too against the Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh tried to challenge the Pickens play where Pickens only got 1 foot in twice, and then basically they were told that they can't because it's an automatic booth review, so you can't challenge it. So the booth reviewed it, and they still thought that Purdy had the touchdown.
Which
So,
is incredible
which
because
is
it's
pretty
clear as
crazy.
day that
Like,
he
yeah,
didn't.
it was. We were watching the replay, like
It's
he never
clear
really
as
crossed
day
the
he
goal
didn't
line
cross the
before his
goal line
double
at
game.
all.
Yeah, so
So
that
some
was
things
lucky.
didn't go like
Yeah, some things
the
went.
Cowboys' way, but
Mm-hmm.
still, you know, the,
The Niners were the better team.
the
They should have won
Niners.
that
No,
game.
no, for sure they were the better
Yeah,
team. But it goes back to what I've been saying about this year it's interesting to me that like I'm really trying to get doing this podcast specifically is opening my eyes to teams outside of the team that I follow, obviously, but it's
yeah,
also opening my eyes of like how teams are run, and like the ones that are winning and that are successful and they're like that are killing it. Like what are they doing differently? And you
mm-hmm.
take a look at the Green Bay Packers, right? What did the Green Bay Packers do this past week that raised some eyebrows and everyone was like, that's an interesting move. Why would they
Yeah,
do that? They
yeah,
freaking bring Robert Saleh in
yep,
as a consultant, right?
yeah,
They're not paying him because obviously they want him to get that money from New York as a consultant for the offense. He's consulting for the offense. He's bringing in a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh pair of defensive eyes to
yeah,
the offense to say, hey, I see you guys are doing this. If you want to trick defenses, you got to do
yeah.
this instead of this. Why is it that Matt LaFleur is smart enough to bring in Robert Saleh to consult, but Kyle Shanahan is not smart enough to bring his boy back to the Niners and be like, yo,
I don't know what
let's
happened there.
impart some of that knowledge that you got and
Yeah,
fortify this defense even more. To hell with whose feelings you're going to get hurt. Who the
yeah,
hell cares?
yeah,
At this point, like when you are a franchise and that is that the necessity of your survival of your job is equated to how many wins you get. Don't you think
mm-hmm.
that what you'd want to do is win as many games as possible in any way, shape, or form?
For sure. And it behooves me that the Niners did not get this guy into their building to like
100%.
whatever they needed to do because not only on offense but on like obviously on defense they need some help, and they need some help especially finishing games. They were able to finish the game this week, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean like I said, like we talked about the last few games, it comes down to it. Like even against Seattle, the same thing. Seattle got the ball back, and it was like almost a chance for them to win the game again. They were lucky they got an interception. Again, like just like these things keep coming up with this team.
Yeah.
So I think it's just insane that they didn't try all they could to get Robert Saleh back, get him back in the building, and help out with the defense, and also offensive coordinator / defensive mind, like
Exactly.
kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know. I don't know what the Niners are doing at this point. I'm not quite sure what's happening. Like the bye came at a great time. I'm happy that they're 4-4. I'm happy that they, the kind of like what I think we talked about this. I would be happy if they went 4-4 by
Mm-hmm.
the bye because I just didn't see them winning both of these games between the Chiefs and Cowboys, essentially. So they're at kind of where I would hope they'd be. And it sounds like they're going to get McCaffrey back here after the bye against Tampa Bay, who's also like really beat up. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they can go on a run here because they got Tampa Bay and Seattle right after the bye. They've got Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay, and then they've got Seattle at home. So I'm hoping they can win those next two games, bring them to 6-4, and kind of take more control of the division and moving forward here.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. In a couple of weeks.
Tassi, I have a prediction here, and I want to see if you agree with my prediction here or
Yeah.
not. Thursday is Halloween, And on Halloween night, we are being treated to a very cool game of the Houston Texans taking on the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Two teams
Jets in prime
going in
again.
completely different directions.
Yeah.
Tassi, here's my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
If the Jets lose on Thursday Night Football, their season's officially over.
I mean, it's already over.
But like officially.
They are so, this is what happens when you give the keys to a smug, like, has-been in Aaron Rodgers. Like, this guy has
fighting words.
Crap
fighting
in
words.
Like 3 years. And
fighting
all of a sudden,
words.
He's like, he's running this franchise into the ground. They listen to him on firing the coach. They listen to him on, like the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. That's his guy. He brought him over from Green Bay. Well, he was terrible in Denver as head coach. They fired him in like mid-season. And then now they bring him in to be the OC here with Aaron Rodgers again. And he's been demoted. And then they lose like a game they should have won again. They can't win these games against these like subpar teams.
By the way, to Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like Drake May was lighting it up. Drake May, I think I got hurt early in the game.
Yeah.
Out of the game, Jacoby comes in and plays a huge chunk of the game, 15 to 24, 132 yards, no TDs, no picks. Yeah. But it didn't matter, You got Ramondre Stevenson scoring 2 touchdowns. Drake May scored a rushing touchdown. Mm-hmm. And you lose.
Yeah. So their defense is totally fallen off a cliff. They got rid of Saleh. Now their defense
Their championship sucks. Caliber defense. Yeah. Just also putting that out there.
And so
championship caliber.
Basically, like, he imploded his team. And then they trade for Devontae. What do they need Devontae Adams for? Like, they already had Garrett Wilson. They had Lazard playing well. Granted, Mike Williams stinks. He's washed. He was dropping passes, not running the right routes. Yeah, I get it. But they trade for Devontae Adams, and, like, he's not doing anything yet. Like, it doesn't make a difference. Like, they're still going to lose. And they're going to lose
New
again
York.
to the Houston Texans.
They wanted
they're going to be done.
Make a splash signing, get Devontae Adams. I actually feel pretty bad for Devontae Adams. At the same time, he wanted to go to New York. He wanted to get reunited.
He could have gone anywhere.
This is what happens when you follow. I hate to say it, but like, he wanted to go to the Raiders and get reunited with Derek Carr. Look how that turned out.
Yep.
He wanted to go to the Jets and get reunited with Aaron Rodgers. Look how that turned out. Sometimes you need to put personal stuff aside and just do what is best for business. Do what's best for your career. And if there are opportunities to go to, I don't know, the Kansas City Chiefs, who just freaking got a wide receiver, or even the San Francisco 49ers, who could need a wide receiver, that'll make a world of difference in your career and the longevity of your career versus, hey, I want to go play with my bros. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the teams that I'm on are absolute garbage teams.
He went from one garbage heap to another. It was just like, the worst division, the worst decision ever.
Absolutely.
I feel bad for Devontae. I watched him on receiver. I'm like, the dude, he like wants to win. Like, he's a gamer. Of course he does. He's a good guy. And, he's a local guy too from around here. So, we're actually, I was hoping that the Niners would get him. And, look, they needed him. Like, they didn't know that Ayuk was going to
It's not too late, man. If I'm the Jets front office, I'd be having a fire sale right now.
Yeah.
A fire sale. Yeah. Get rid of absolutely everyone.
Rodgers,
this season is a wash. Jets fans, listen, I'm being real with you. I'm a Dolphins fan, okay? You and I don't like each other to begin with. I understand that. That's all good. I called this from the beginning, not only as of the Jets, but of the Dolphins. I predicted these two franchises were going to tank this season because something wasn't right. And lo and behold, here it is. This Kyle Shanahan tree, or this what's the tree that they come from? Who is the coach? The Gary Kubiak tree, or whatever this tree is, okay, is not working out. Kyle Shanahan, question. Listen, the jury is out as to whether or not this dude is the right call for the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. I'm still of the mind that if the Niners make it to the Super Bowl, I don't know if they do anymore, but if they make it to the Super Bowl, that Shanahan will coach the game of his life for the Niners to win. I'm still of that mind. But Robert Saleh didn't work out. Mike McDaniel, not working out. And, I think the right now you could point to the DeMeco Ryans is working out. Sean McVay figures it out somehow. And Matt LaFleur, in my opinion, is the best of the bunch. Because Matt LaFleur has figured it out with Aaron Rodgers and is figuring it out post Aaron Rodgers. And it is able to game plan and win with Malik Willis and is able to do those things that I wish Mike McDaniel could do. I wish Robert Saleh could do, because I like Saleh. I like Robert Saleh a lot. But DeMeco Ryans is showing that he's the real deal. Again, luck has a lot to do with it. The fact that CJ Stroud turns into the quarterback that he turns into obviously makes it such a big thing. But going back to the Jets, you're saying that their season is already over. I don't agree with that. I think that this is the final nail in the coffin. Because
it's coming.
They could theoretically go on a run after this game and win 8 games in a row and finish the season 10-7. That's not going to happen. Yeah. I think, losing to the New England Patriots is a division game, by the way, at home, is the nail in the coffin. But this Texans game is going to be the cherry on top. It's going to be the one that goes that, because I'm going to tell you something right now. I think Houston destroys them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a one-score game. I think Houston waltzes away with this.
Okay.
Easily wins by 14 to 17 points.
Yeah.
I don't think it's close.
DeMeco Ryans going to take a little revenge for his old
coach. 100%. You don't think DeMeco Ryans got some an incentive for this game?
Yeah. Well, also, one thing about Houston, they're going to be lose. They don't. I don't know about Diggs. He had that non-contact injury. They're still trying to evaluate what exactly happened. So they might not have him for the Thursday night game. Probably not. But I think they'll still be okay with Tank Dell. But they've had some injuries now. They've lost Nico Collins, who was one of the best receivers in the league, essentially the first, quarter of the season. And then now potentially they're going to lose Stephon Diggs. So those are some big losses, but Joe Mixon is playing really well for them. He's basically they become a running team now that he's back from his injury. And, CJ Stroud's kind of just complimenting with some solid QB play, and their defense is playing, pretty good. So I do think the Texans will still win this game, but it's going to be the final nail here for the Jets. I think that their season's done.
Good franchises figure it out. I have no doubt in my mind that DeMeco Ryans is going to figure out how to move forward with the pieces that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Texans are going to kill it. Okay, this is a friendly reminder to like and subscribe to the PTW podcast as we have finished week 8, the halfway point, the unofficial halfway point of the season, moving into week 9. Are you riding high on your team's victory like Tassi is, or are you dying inside slowly but surely like I have the last few weeks as your team continues to do absolutely nothing and are on the verge of getting absolutely pummeled, destroyed, whatever adjective you want to use, versus the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo this week. All right, folks. If you are playing fantasy football, which I would assume the majority of you are, it behoove you to listen to some waiver wire picks that Tassi is going to bring up of this week as you get your teams ready, get your rosters ready for the week ahead. So Tassi, the floor is yours. Yeah. Tell us some of your waiver wire pickups of the week as we close out this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, so I mean, if anybody, listened to me last week, I said Cedric Tillman was the guy you wanted to pick up and play. Turned out I was pretty right on that one. I picked up and played him in my lineup. I got 30 points from him. It basically led me to a victory in my fantasy football league. So some guys that I would pick up for this week is his teammate, actually, a couple of his teammates. So the guy throwing him the ball, Jameis Winston, I definitely think he is a guy you want to put in your lineup now. He's going to be slinging it. He's always put up good fantasy numbers. So if you're looking for a quarterback, Jameis Winston's your guy. Another guy on the Browns, a guy that he throws to, is Elijah Moore. He targeted him 12 times in this game. So he had 8 catches for about 85 yards. So solid, especially in PPR, a guy that you're looking to pick up. The next guy that I would look at, and this is kind of like hinges on the health of running backs. For my own team, the 49ers, Isaac Guerrero came in after Jordan Mason got hurt. He had a really good game. Should have had 2 touchdowns, but he knelt at the end. But playing the good guy, there with 20 seconds left or whatever, he could have scored. It would have mattered. But Isaac Guerrero is a pickup. We don't know. We've been told that McCaffrey is trying to be back in Week 10 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but that's not a given. And we know the history with Shanahan and telling the truth, so we don't know if they're going to be back. And Jordan Mason's banged up. He still has the AC sprain. He aggravated it in his shoulder. So I would definitely still pick up Isaac Guerrero, stash him on your bench, because he could be worth a lot, especially if CMC does not come back and play. And even when he does come back and play, he's not going to be going full bore right away. They're going to need to sprinkle him in to get him ready. And I still think Isaac Guerrero, if Jordan Mason is hurt, will have some value. And then as my last pickup is the defense. The defensive play of the week this week is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. They're playing at home against Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars now have lost both their top 2 receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. is hurt. Christian Kirk is out for the season. Trevor Lawrence looks terrible. Philadelphia Eagles are going to have a really good defensive game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pick them up, play them. You're welcome.
And there you go, the waiver wire pickups of the week from Tassi, the Football Greek. Listen, folks, if you are enjoying what you're listening to, again, do us a solid and like and subscribe to the PTW podcast here on the YouTube channel, and also wherever you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting app of choice. If you could leave us a review, a rating, however it works for Apple Podcasts or Spotify, either way, we would greatly appreciate it. But until Thursday night, where we preview the new slate of games, I am Amir from the PTW podcast. That is Tassi, the Football Greek. We will see you all in the next episode.
Feel bad for those Cowboys fans, man. Another loss. Taking on the shit from the Niners. We own you guys.
Take care, folks.